There's a version of you that wakes up every morning with a plan. You know what needs to get done. You've thought about it the night before. Maybe you even wrote it down. And yet, by the time the day is over, something happened. The hours slipped. The list barely moved. And you're left with that quiet, familiar feeling. I didn't do enough. Again. We've been told the solution is a better system, a new app, a different calendar, a morning routine you saw in a YouTube video. And so you try it. For a few days, maybe a week, it works. Then it doesn't. And you're back where you started. Except now you also feel like someone who can't even follow through on a productivity system. But here's what no one tells you. The problem was never the system. The problem is something older, something more personal, something that no app can fix because it lives inside the way you think, not inside your phone. What if the real reason you struggle with time isn't about time at all? What if it's about something you've been quietly avoiding, and the busyness is just the cover story you tell yourself so you don't have to look at it? That's what this video is about. Not hacks, not tricks. The actual psychology behind why smart, capable people consistently feel behind, and what it really takes to change that. Let's start with something that might reframe everything you think you know about this topic. Time management, as a concept, is only about 100 years old. It emerged during the Industrial Revolution, when factories needed workers to show up, perform, and produce on a fixed schedule for a fixed number of hours. Efficiency was the goal. Output was the measure. And somewhere along the way, we took that factory logic and applied it to our entire lives. We started measuring our days and tasks completed. We started judging ourselves by how productive we were. We built entire identities around being busy, as if busyness were proof of worth. Psychologists call this activity bias. It's our brain's tendency to prefer action over stillness, even when that action isn't moving us toward anything meaningful. We feel better doing something, anything, than sitting with the discomfort of not doing enough of the right things. And here's where it gets interesting. Research in behavioral psychology consistently shows that humans are remarkably poor at distinguishing between being busy and being effective. We confuse movement with progress. We confuse a full schedule with a full life. So before we talk about how to manage your time better, we need to ask a more honest question. What are you actually managing it for? Because time, at its core, isn't a productivity problem. It's a values problem. And the way you spend your hours is, whether you realize it or not, a direct reflection of what you actually believe matters, not what you say matters. What you act like matters. That gap, between the life you say you want and the life your calendar reveals, is where everything begins. The first brutal truth is this: you don't have a time problem. You have a clarity problem. Think about the last time you sat down to work and felt genuinely focused. Not just busy, focused. Where an hour passed and you barely noticed. That feeling isn't rare because you lack discipline. It's rare because most people never decide, truly decide, what they're working toward. David Allen, author of Getting Things Done, observed something fascinating after working with thousands of professionals. The number one reason people procrastinate isn't laziness. It's ambiguity. When your brain can't clearly picture the next physical action, it stalls. It creates the sensation of being overwhelmed, not because there's too much to do, but because nothing is defined clearly enough to actually start. We call this the fog of intention. You want to work on your goals. But work on my goals isn't an action. It's a wish. And wishes don't get scheduled. The moment you replace vague intentions with specific, concrete next steps, not get healthier, but go for a 20-minute walk after dinner, something shifts. Your brain stops resisting. The fog lifts. And suddenly, you have more time than you thought. Because you're no longer spending it standing still, wondering where to begin. The second truth is one most people never want to hear. Busyness is often a disguise for fear. When we fill every hour, back-to-back meetings, endless errands, constant scrolling. We rarely stop to ask why, but psychology has a name for it: productive avoidance. It's the act of staying occupied with low-stakes tasks to avoid confronting the high-stakes ones, the ones that actually matter, the ones where failure would mean something. Because here's the uncomfortable reality: if you never start writing the book, you can never fail at writing the book. If you never launch the project, it can never fall short. Busyness becomes a shield, a socially acceptable way of saying, "I'm not ready," without ever having to admit it. Leading researchers in self-determination theory have found that people consistently underestimate how much of their avoidance is emotionally driven, not logistically driven. It's not that you don't have 2 hours. It's that those 2 hours feel dangerous. The question worth sitting with isn't, "What should I do with my time?" It's, "What am I afraid to make time for?" Because that answer will tell you everything. The third truth might be the most liberating one. You cannot manage time. You can only manage attention. Time moves at the same pace for everyone. It doesn't speed up when you're disciplined or slow down when you're struggling. What actually changes, what separates people who feel in control from people who feel constantly behind, is where their attention goes. Neuroscientists have found that the human brain cannot truly multitask. What we call multitasking is actually rapid attention switching. And every switch comes at a cost. Studies show it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully regain deep focus after an interruption, which means a single distraction doesn't cost you seconds. It costs you nearly half an hour of real concentrated work. This is why your environment matters more than your willpower. A phone on your desk, even face down, even silent, measurably reduces cognitive capacity. Your brain is already half managing the possibility of a notification. You don't need more self-control. You need fewer decisions competing for your attention at once. Protect your focus like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Here's what it all comes down to. You will never find time. No one does. The people who build the lives they want don't find time. They make it, deliberately, imperfectly, sometimes uncomfortably. And that requires something harder than any system: honesty. Honesty about what you're avoiding. Honesty about what you're pretending doesn't matter, when deep down it matters most. Your time is not just a schedule. It's a self-portrait. Every hour you spend is a brushstroke, and at the end of the day, the painting doesn't lie. So the real question isn't how to manage your time better. It's whether you're willing to look at how you're spending it right now and ask yourself, quietly, without judgment, is this the life I'm choosing, or just the one I fell into? You already know the answer. You've known it for a while. The only thing left is to decide what to do with that knowledge.